Hello, it's Henna, and today we're talking about a little known fragrance called Chypre Mousse by Orizia Legrand. This is originally from 1914, and the brand says that it was launched for the dandies of the world. In case you're wondering, dandy was the term for someone who placed a great importance on physical appearance, refined language, and leisurely hobbies. This would be an Oscar Wilde type of character, and the term originated in the late 18th century. It's interesting that the brand refers to this perfume as something for the dandy persona, because to me it smells like walking in the forest on a damp day. But I'll talk more about how it smells in a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the brand first, because this is a niche brand that maybe isn't very well known outside of the perfume community. Orizia Legrand is a revival brand out of France. It started in the 1700s, and the stories are that it made perfume for royalty. The word Orizia isn't the name of a person, but it's derived from the word riz, which means rice, and it is a reference to the rice that was used as an ingredient in makeup powders. The brand died out until it was brought back to life by someone who was taken by the stories of the brand and wanted to bring back the heritage without actually reconstructing all the vintage perfumes. The reason for that was that the vintage perfumes might not necessarily be the types of perfumes that we would want to wear today. And the brand owner decided to make perfumes that were evocative of the time, of the early age of this brand, but they still feel modern and are wearable. In other words, he wanted to give people perfume that smelled like today, but he also wanted to respect the history that was behind this brand. That is a beautiful thing because a lot of revival brands are really trying to capitalize on the history of the brand by telling perfume lovers that they're getting something that's maybe a little bit vintage seeming. Instead, this brand is recognizing that there was a history of perfume here, but that maybe perfume tastes have changed, and here's some perfume that bridges the gap between the old and the new. So now let's talk a little bit more about Chypre Mousse. Chypre Mousse was a perfume in 1914 and then was brought back by the brand. While it doesn't smell like anything else I've ever smelled before, this is perfume with a capital P. It evokes the big, beautiful perfumes of the past, but without copying them. It reminds you of legacy scents like Chanel No. 5 or Shalimar, but without the familiar aldehydic tropes or the ambery finishes. This is not at all powdery. It doesn't smell old. It smells rich, but it's not all that expensive. This is for the discerning perfume lover, for the person in the know, and in that way, I can see how it is the perfume for dandies. It's big, it's ostentatious, but it's not cheap. It's not common. In a way, it reminds me of a fougere. It's fern-like and fresh, but there's an oak moss that keeps it grounded. While Chypre Mousse doesn't smell vintage, it also avoids the tropes of modern perfume, such as using big, woody ambers or defaulting to a pre-made base from a big fragrance house and just adding some interesting top notes. No, Chypre Mousse doesn't have any of that. It doesn't have any aroma chemicals that are going to stick to your skin or your clothing and take multiple washes to come out. This is a unique perfume composition that's so interesting and feels otherworldly. You might be looking at the word Chypre in the name of this perfume and be thinking about other famous Chypre perfumes that you've tried. Maybe you're thinking of Jubilation 25 by Amouage or Chypre Palatine by MDCI. Maybe you're reminded of Mitsuko by Guerlain or Diaghilev by Roja Dove. Actually, Chypre Mousse doesn't smell like any of those. It doesn't have a fruity bergamot opening, followed by florals, followed by a mossy, earthy base. In fact, the only thing that is a Chypre in this perfume is the moss from the base. And I think the mousse in the name actually refers to the fact that moss is from the Chypre style of perfumes. It's taking the moss from the Chypre structure and playing with that. People have described Chypre Mousse as a petrichor perfume. That's valid. Petrichor is the scent of the earth when rain hits it. Chypre Mousse isn't strictly a petrichor perfume, but it does have a rainy feel about it. In fact, the person that initially gave me my sample of this perfume gave it to me because I was really into rainy day scents. This is more the scent of a forest after it has been raining. So it opens with a fennel and mint note that feel very mellow but refreshing. We're not talking about the sharp, biting gum type of mint. The variety that we're thinking about is very mellow and soft, and it is a mint that's more blended into a fennel. It has a sweetness in it that makes it very easy to appreciate. It blends nicely with the mossiness that's throughout this perfume. The sweetness of the herbs stay throughout the wear of the scent, but so do the moss notes, so you continually get this interplay between earth and then also these brighter, uplifting aromatics. Whether you smell mint or fennel, all of them have an effervescence that they lend to this perfume, and it keeps the perfume smelling bright. There's also violet in the middle of this perfume and an evergreen tree note that makes me think of crunchy pine needles and sticky sap. There's the feel of fresh little pine cones coming off a tree and sticking to your hands or your coat as you walk through the forest. This is a green perfume, but it's not the type of green that smells grassy. There's galbanum in here, but I don't smell a ton of it, which is always what makes perfumes smell like grass. But I do think that the galbanum lends its greenness to the rest of the fragrance. I get lots of an earthy vetiver, which plays nicely off the oak moss. Both those ingredients stick to your skin, so this is a scent that has a good amount of staying power. A couple of sprays last the whole entire day and initially fill the room. If this was a color, this would be a medley of green that you can find in a forest, old leaves and new leaves. If it was a season, it would be a wet spring. If you're the type of person who loves a rainy day, then you will be able to enjoy this fragrance in any weather. And I'm a person that loves a rainy day. I love how romantic it feels. I love that the air is misty and things seem a little bit nicer, even though they're not necessarily clearer. And I appreciate that about Chypre Mousse. This is an extremely well-blended perfume. It's very mellow, but it's not exactly a boring scent. The dandies of the past were traditionally men, but I do think that Chypre Mousse is a genderless perfume. I think it feels so modern and classic at the same time that anyone will be able to wear it and enjoy it. I know that there's other perfumes from the Orizia Legrand brand that are very well loved, and I'm hoping that I get to smell some of them at some point in the future. Thanks for watching and listening, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.